For generations, the American dream followed a familiar formula. Work hard, get a stable job, buy a house in the suburbs, start a family, climb the corporate ladder, retire comfortably someday. For decades, millions of Americans believed this path represented success, stability, and freedom. It became one of the most powerful ideas in modern history, the belief that anyone could build a better life through effort and determination. But today, something fundamental is changing. The old American dream is fading, and in its place, a completely new version is emerging. Younger generations are redefining what success actually means. Many no longer view massive suburban homes, lifelong corporate careers, or traditional lifestyles as the ultimate goal. Instead, they are pursuing flexibility, freedom, experiences, financial independence, remote work, personal fulfillment, and control over their time. The new American dream looks very different from the one previous generations grew up believing in. And this shift may completely reshape the future of American society. To understand why this transformation is happening, you first have to understand how much the world itself has changed. For much of the 20th century, the traditional American dream was relatively achievable for large numbers of people. Manufacturing jobs paid well. Housing was affordable compared to incomes. College costs were lower. Stable pensions existed. A single income could often support an entire family. Millions of Americans genuinely believed that each generation would live better than the one before it. And for a long time, many did. But over the past several decades, the economic foundations supporting that dream began changing dramatically. Housing prices surged faster than wages in many parts of the country. College tuition exploded. Healthcare costs climbed, job security weakened. Globalization and automation transformed industries. Stable lifelong careers became less common. Economic inequality widened significantly. Younger Americans watched these changes happen in real time. Millennials and Gen Z entered adulthood during periods of economic uncertainty, including the Great Recession, student debt crises, inflation, rising housing costs, and now the rapid rise of artificial intelligence threatening future jobs. As a result, many began questioning whether the traditional American dream was still realistic at all. For some, buying a home in major cities feels almost impossible. For others, corporate careers appear unstable and emotionally exhausting. Many younger workers watched older generations dedicate decades to companies only to experience layoffs, burnout, or financial insecurity anyway. The old promises no longer feel guaranteed. And once people stop believing in the old dream, they begin creating a new one. One of the biggest differences is that younger generations increasingly value freedom over status. Previous generations often associated success with visible symbols: large homes, expensive cars, prestigious job titles, corner offices, and traditional career advancement. But today, many younger Americans care less about outward appearances and more about lifestyle flexibility. Time itself became more valuable than status. For many people, the ultimate goal is no longer climbing the corporate ladder at all costs. Instead, it's gaining control over their lives. Remote work, entrepreneurship, freelancing, digital businesses, and flexible careers all became attractive because they offer something traditional jobs often cannot: autonomy. The pandemic accelerated this shift dramatically. When millions of Americans suddenly began working remotely, many realized how much of their lives had been built around systems that no longer seemed necessary. Endless commuting, expensive urban living, rigid office schedules, and corporate routines started feeling outdated to many workers. People began asking themselves difficult questions. Why spend hours commuting every week if the work can be done online? Why pay enormous rent prices just to live near an office? Why sacrifice health, family time, and personal happiness purely for career advancement? For millions, the answers changed permanently. Remote work opened entirely new possibilities. The new American dream increasingly revolves around mobility and flexibility rather than permanence. Instead of staying with one employer for decades, younger workers frequently change careers, industries, and locations. Some prioritize travel over home ownership. Others build online businesses or pursue side hustles alongside traditional employment. Digital technology made this lifestyle possible. A generation ago, many careers required physical presence in specific cities. Today, someone can build an audience, launch a company, create content, trade investments, sell products, or work remotely from almost anywhere with an internet connection. This transformed how younger Americans think about success. For many, success no longer means owning the biggest house in the neighborhood. It means having enough freedom to live life on their own terms. Minimalism and financial independence movements also reflect this shift. Some younger Americans intentionally avoid excessive consumption and debt. Instead of chasing luxury lifestyles, they focus on reducing expenses, investing money, and escaping financial pressure. The idea of retiring early through disciplined saving and investing gained popularity because many people value freedom more than material accumulation. Experiences also became more important than possessions. Travel, personal growth, relationships, health, and meaningful experiences increasingly define success for younger generations. Social media amplified this trend by exposing people to alternative lifestyles around the world. Americans can now compare their lives not just to neighbors, but to millions of people globally. This created a major cultural shift. The traditional suburban lifestyle once represented stability and aspiration, but some younger Americans now view it differently. Long commutes, endless debt, and highly structured routines sometimes appear restrictive rather than desirable. That doesn't mean people no longer want homes or families. Many still do, but the priorities surrounding those goals are changing. People increasingly want flexibility in where they live, how they work, and how they structure their lives. Mental health also plays a huge role in the new American dream. Younger generations are far more willing to prioritize emotional well-being over career prestige than previous generations were. Burnout, stress, anxiety, and work-life balance became central conversations in modern society. Many young workers watched older generations sacrifice enormous amounts for careers that didn't always deliver happiness or security. As a result, some are intentionally rejecting hyper-competitive lifestyles. This is especially visible in attitudes toward work itself. For much of modern history, identity and career were deeply connected in American culture. People often define themselves by their profession, but today many younger Americans increasingly separate personal identity from employment. Work is becoming something people do to support life, rather than life revolving entirely around work. At the same time, entrepreneurship exploded. Millions of Americans now dream about building businesses, becoming creators, launching startups, or generating income online rather than climbing traditional corporate hierarchies. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Shopify, Patreon, and freelance marketplaces created entirely new economic opportunities unavailable to previous generations. The internet allowed ordinary individuals to build audiences and businesses without relying on large institutions. This changed the psychology of ambition itself. Younger Americans increasingly believe they can create personalized career paths rather than follow standardized ones. But there's another important reason the new American dream emerged: necessity. In many cases, younger generations adapted because the old system became financially unreachable. Homeownership in many cities became unaffordable. Stable pensions disappeared. College debt exploded. Inflation reduced purchasing power. Economic crises repeatedly disrupted careers and savings. As traditional stability weakened, flexibility became survival. Gig work, side hustles, remote jobs, freelancing, and digital income streams often emerged not just from ambition, but from economic pressure. Younger Americans learned not to rely entirely on single employers or traditional systems. Artificial intelligence may accelerate this trend even further. As automation transforms the workforce, future careers may become even less stable and predictable. Lifelong employment in one field could become increasingly rare. Adaptability, creativity, and entrepreneurial thinking may become more valuable than traditional credentials alone. This could push even more Americans toward independent and flexible lifestyles. The new American dream is also geographically different. For decades, success often meant moving to major cities like New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. But today, many younger Americans are leaving expensive urban centers behind. Smaller cities, suburbs, and affordable regions are becoming increasingly attractive because they offer more space, lower costs, and higher quality of life. Technology weakened the connection between opportunity and geography. This decentralization may permanently reshape America's population patterns. But despite all these changes, one thing remains surprisingly consistent. People still want security, purpose, and opportunity. The core emotional desire behind the American dream never disappeared. What changed is the definition of how to achieve it. For previous generations, stability often came through institutions, corporations, home ownership, pensions, and long-term employment. For younger generations, stability increasingly comes through adaptability. Diversified income, flexibility, mobility, digital skills, and financial independence. The dream itself evolved alongside the economy, and this transformation may continue accelerating. By 2050, the traditional idea of success may look completely outdated to future generations. People may prioritize remote lifestyles, digital communities, AI-assisted businesses, flexible careers, and experiences over many of the material goals that once dominated American culture. The future American dream may focus less on accumulating possessions and more on maximizing freedom. Freedom over prestige, flexibility over permanence, time over status, experiences over appearances, control over routine. And perhaps that's the most important shift of all. The new American dream is no longer about fitting into a predefined version of success created by society. It's about creating a personalized version of success for yourself. For some people, that still means owning a home and raising a family. For others, it means traveling the world while working remotely. For others, it means building a business online, escaping debt, or simply achieving peace of mind. The dream became individualized, and maybe that's why the new American dream feels so different from the old one. America itself is changing, technology is changing, work is changing, culture is changing, and younger generations are adapting to a world far less predictable than the one their parents inherited. The old American dream promised stability through conformity. The new one promises freedom through adaptability. And whether that future becomes liberating or unstable may shape the direction of America for decades to come.